Alright, so welcome back to part 2 of our Dancouga review. In this section, we're going to go ahead and get this guy transformed into his Gestalt mode, as well as look over the Gestalt itself, review that part of him. So, we'll get started with the transformation here. The first thing we're going to do is remove all of their individual weapons. I'll actually just put the characters to the side here. Alright. And we're going to be working with two more pieces for this that aren't used for the characters. They're specifically for the transformation process. So, taking a look at the weapons here. The first one is this. That'll come in the box. Okay. This piece is meant to slide onto the gun like that, so that you can attach the other weapons. So, these two just slide in to the sides, and the bird's weapon just goes on like that. Okay? Alright, so you have a Mega Cannon there. And I'll go ahead and start with Big Mammoth. Get those out of the way. Okay. His arms are going to remain the same. You're pretty much just putting his feet up and pushing his head down. That's really about it. Okay? You're going to extend his arms out a little bit more too. They are a bit longer. I also prefer to have the shoulder pads facing upwards. A bit more show accurate there. Okay? So now, that part's done. I can put him in the back. These two, we're going to get them transformed back into their tank modes pretty much, except instead of like normal, we're going to have the guns facing backwards so that they don't conflict with the feet at all. So, and the paws get flipped up. Boom, boom. Boom. And the instructions do a very good job of showing you how to transform these. The transformations are really simple. Now on the tanks, these two little nubs here, they point upwards to connect. Okay. So knock this one out. Two. Yeah, it's a pretty simple process. Get that backwards. And once again, make sure that that's facing upwards. Okay. And now we get to transform the head here. I'll zoom in a little bit for that. Okay, you actually start by removing the arms. So put those like so. Put that cover up. Okay. Make sure to put those shoulder pads behind. And it's a lot like transforming them into Eagle mode. Okay. Make sure these legs are clipped in. Okay, and you got to make sure to get that head upwards like that. And then the rest, just everything flips around and all that good stuff. Okay. And the legs actually flip downwards, so you have that part. And this part should just flip around there. Oh, I didn't have the head up enough. I got it. Okay. And there we go. We have the head. Alright? Now, there's one last piece. It's this guy right here that acts as the neck. So we just take the two arms, pop them up and over like so. Okay? Now you can wait to connect this to the head. I prefer to do it first. There's an opening in there. It's just friction. So you just slide it up like so. Okay? And there you have the head on its actual neck joint. We'll put that away, and now we'll get this thing all put together. Alright, here's the left and right feet. This has two pegs on each side, and they just peg in. Okay? Boom. Boom. Okay. And then connect in the head here. Slides right in. Okay. Alright, and there we go. We have at least the initial version of Dancouga. So let's go ahead and take a look at the bot itself. And alright, now we get to take a look at Dancouga himself. Very strong likeness to the anime. Okay, get a look from all sides there. Okay. And back to the front. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of his, well, take a look at all of his posability, and then we'll look at his gimmicks, accessories, you know, all that good stuff. So starting with the head here, it is connected on that extension piece or that neck piece, so the head can come off, so you gotta be wary of that. Actually zoom into it here. Okay. So you have to be wary of that, but as long as you don't literally hold the figure upside down, it's pretty good to go. He does have full posability. He can look up and down and things like that. These two pieces, though, do block him from being able to look to the side as much as he possibly can, but, you know, it's got a good amount of posability there. I can't complain. Alright, his shoulders, just like Big Mammoth. They definitely go in and out, side to side. Good strong ratcheting joints. Elbow bend. His hands on ball joints, as well as these four fingers. They're one pivot, but they all are articulated, and the thumb swings in and out. So, okay. Now, it's kind of a retreat of the posability that I did when looking over Big Mammoth, because, like I said, he pretty much takes up everything except the 2 feet in the head, you know? Okay, so no waist posability. He does have swivel here in the legs. He does have some outward movement there, okay? But when he's going here, you can go ahead and bend his legs and things like that. And his feet, they don't really go back and forth, but they do have tilt, which is nice. So he can stand flat-footed in some poses that, you know, have that as a necessity. But going ahead and getting him into a pose here, he's definitely not bad. Okay, so going ahead, put his feet back in place. I wish that the two tanks had locks, particularly for the feet mode or whatever, because it does get kind of annoying when that happens. Alright, so zooming out here, he does have the cannon option as well. Okay. You can also take his back turrets and put them to the sides like so. Okay. Alright, so yeah, I mean, he's definitely armored up. And we'll go ahead and take a look at some of his other weapons as well. Gotta put those cannons back. Alright. He has the same gun as previously, the Dagon, or Daigon. And the best way to do it is the exact same way as previously with Big Mammoth. Clipping it into the sides here using those two pegs. And see, it's just an SOB to really work this out. Okay. And your mileage may vary with this. I mean, you might find a technique that's a lot easier than mine, but, you know, if anybody asks me, I'm going to say this gun is a pain in the ass. I just plain don't like it. I feel like they could have done a lot better in terms of making this a more playable, posable piece. Alright, so moving those back in. Alright. So, you just kind of got to find a sweet spot. I do it by clipping his hand in first and then, you know, going from there. But now you've got it clipped. Okay. Get the head closed back there. And see what I mean when it comes to the head just flying off because it's connected by friction rather than an actual joint. It's kind of frustrating, but the nice part is at least it just has the ability to pop on fairly easily. Okay, so there's that, and you can see this gun is huge, without a question. So taking a look at the length of the gun here, tip is about 9 inches in itself, and you know, even measuring the bottom self, he's about 10 1/4 inches tall. So this is not at all a small mecha, and big weapons to boot. Now, getting this annoying gun off of his hip, we can take a look at his other weapons. I'll actually put this gun in the back, just so it's at least a little bit easier to keep him in frame. But he comes with his Dancouga sword. Okay, pretty big sword in itself. And the thing is, they have a latch here that pegs into his fingers. They can flip up and flip down. But since you only use this sword for his Dancouga mode, I don't understand why this even flips up. Alright, so you just peg that into a peg in his fingers there, and you can then bring those fingers back. Okay, and there's that. And another thing is, these two pieces are removable for whatever reason. It's just little things like that that I don't get. Alright, so I'm actually going to physically move the camera back since I can't zoom out anymore. But yeah, you can see here, this is just a huge beast of a sword. I mean, definitely big, definitely imposing, and just really cool. It's chromed over. I actually used Black Magic liquid wax on mine to help with any kind of rusting issues it might have, as well as give it a good shine too, because it just looks great. It's an awesome display piece. Another thing that he has is his wing pack, this booster there. So I'll go ahead and attach that to him. Okay. Here's that from the anime. Pretty big in itself. As tall as hell. Alright, so what I'm doing is just flipping that part back, flipping these two wings forward. This whole thing comes up. Alright, and it has two slides here that slide around his back, as well as two things here that clip over his shoulders. So I'm going to slide these into his back. Alright, he also has two latches here that latch around those, I guess if you want to call them like hip cannons or whatever. And then these two just clip on his shoulders. I love that this is a perfect fit. It's just very well done. And very neat to see it go on so smoothly. So, there we go, and there's that. There he is with his wing pack. And I'll actually zoom in a bit here. And as you can see, this guy just becomes monstrous when it comes to when he's all put together there. I mean, overall, this guy is just imposing. He's posable. I mean, it's one of those things to where when you start equipping him with all of his weapons and everything like that, especially on top of looking at his posability, you really see why he's such a sought-after figure, even after all these years. It's just a good, well-designed toy. So let's get him into a cool pose there, so you can see how his weapons look. Okay, and yeah, see what I mean? He just plain looks good. And there you have, get the lights out of his face, Dancouga. Alright, and final thoughts on Bandai Soul of Chogokin GX-13 Dancouga. Honestly, this was pretty much a grail of mine. Not a big fan of the anime, but a huge fan of the design of the mecha itself. And this toy definitely does him extreme justice. I actually forgot to flip out cannons on Mammoth there, so you can see that. But yeah, an awesome likeness, and in fact, proportionally and everything like that, I think that this toy looks a lot better than the cartoon even. So it's just good stuff. Very posable in Gestalt mode. Good amount of accessories, all necessary accessories. Not a ton of parts forming, but you know, you do have those two extra pieces for the gun and for the neck that place on him. A very cohesive looking Gestalt mode too. And yeah, where it falls short though is the individual bot modes. I mean, Big Mammoth's great, and even Fighter Eagle's pretty cool. But Land Liger and Land Cougar, especially in their robot modes, just the posability there is really lacking and really dated. But I assume most people would be buying this for the Gestalt mode, and the Gestalt delivers. I got this for $200 shipped, right around there, yeah. And it's just a fantastic toy. I love it very much, and I'd recommend it to anybody. But, like I said, buy it for the Gestalt and not the individual robot modes because, you know, as a whole, they fall kind of short. But anyways, this has been TJ Duckett with another Kuma-style review. Once again, this has been Bandai's Soul of Chogokin GX-13 Dancouga. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great